Hello, Lucy.
David.
My God, I can't believe that we were on a proper radio station recently.
We went to the studio, didn't we?
We certainly did, and it was a beautiful day, wasn't it? The birds were tweeting, and it was a lovely warm day.
Yes.
And where did we go?
We went to 10 Radio in Wivliscombe, Wivy, as it's affectionately known here. And we went to a school, didn't we? It was a bit scary going back to school. And we were in one of those great big mobile home things that they have on building sites. And there inside was this amazing studio. All official,
was.
All the gear.
Lots of knobs, meters and dials,
wasn't there? All that, and there it was. And it made our little setup look a bit amateur, shall we say?
Amateur is good.
Yeah, it is, yes.
So you actually knew one of the presenters, didn't you?
I did. I know Anton Matthews, who is the sound engineer stroke presenter, co-presenter with Pauline. And Anton and I worked together in Beckenham. We think, God, what he says on the programme, I can't remember, longer ago than I thought anyway. And it was lovely because he saw us in the paper. And got in touch, and we had lost touch, so I was so delighted to hear from him, and then to go on his community radio, which was amazing. And he's actually said he's going to come back. I'm desperate to get him to come and do a poddy with us, because Anton in the 60s was a sound engineer with a very famous band.
Now, I know you can't say who it was.
I can't say who it was,
no,
because I don't want to give away who it was.
Yeah.
But if I say that we didn't go to the interview on a magic bus, but we could have seen for miles and miles, that might give people an idea.
Right. And
who it was.
Yeah, who it was, that's right. And I suppose you couldn't say we were in a jam going. So
no, definitely not in a jam. But we've dropped lots of special hints as to who it is.
Right, well, no more on that, because otherwise we're going to have to bleep it out.
Yeah, okay.
So why did we, or what were we talking about there at 10
God, it's so long ago, I can barely remember. We were talking about the Southwest Tourism Awards, and then we sort of went on to talk about COVID and why we won the award and why we got a silver and a gold, and how business was during COVID, and we were all saying, thankfully, it was a distant memory, but it was really to talk about that and to muse on the days pre-COVID, and also talk about what we were doing during it.
Yeah, it was quite a nice reflection, wasn't it? It was 20 minutes of reflection on what was quite a tough period, but as a team, we came together.
As a team, we did, as a team and a team. And the good news was, after that we went for a bun in Bampton, which was something that we're going to be coming back to. So we found another place to suggest for our guests to go to, and we had to test the outlets. We do like to test the buns,
certainly
don't we?
do, particularly in that gorgeous bakery in Bampton.
Yeah, that was a macaroon test actually that day. And I think you had an iced bun.
Yeah, don't say that, because the other half will be listening. So anyway,
you had an iced raisin with a walnut.
Yeah, and no latte.
No latte. No, you never have that. Black coffee always. So we'll hand over to the more professional Anton and Pauline.
Yeah, absolutely. And just for all listeners of the podcast, you have to listen to Pauline's voice, because it does sound like the start of a Radio 4.
Yeah, we think World Service, don't
World
we?
Service,
we think she was on the BBC for a long time, but she was too professional and polite to tell us. So yes, we'll hand over, and at the end, you will hear the 10 Radio jingle, and at the beginning, and we're open to offers. If anyone wants to make us a relevant, suitable jingle, that would be lovely.
Yeah, indeed. Maybe the Dunster Festival can sing us a jingle at the upcoming Dunster Festival. But anyway, more of that later. So I'm going to take the slider down, and it's over to 10 Radio. 10 Radio.
Anyway, we're now very pleased to welcome new guests to the studio, but not new to Anton, because our next guest is Lucy Green from the north part of Exmoor. Good morning, Lucy.
Hello, Pauline.
It's lovely to see you. And Anton and Lucy have worked together over time, ages ago. But of course, you know, as you were just saying, you haven't aged or changed
No.
one jot.
Not a jot.
We were just trying to figure it out, and Lucy thought it might be 10 years, and in fact it has to be, what's 7 minus 21? Nearly 15 years.
Yeah.
It's always double it.
Yeah.
You know, whatever you think. Yeah.
So, yeah, it's lovely to see you again, Lucy.
Oh.
I know, it is
and
lovely.
to meet David.
Yes, and you, Anton.
And along with Lucy today, we have David Oxendale, who is a business partner in Lucy's business. But today we're going to talk about Exmoor Character Cottages. So, Lucy, you run this lovely business. Looking at your website, and people, I do encourage you to look just to sort of drool and have a lovely gaze at beautiful accommodation that you can rent for your holiday. But you run wonderful cottages in and around Dunster and the North Coast and so on. But the big news, insofar as how I got hold of you, is that you've just won silver in the Resilience and Innovation category at the Southwest Excellence Awards. Now, that's a really super thing. It must be the hardest job in the world anyway, running holiday accommodation, without actually adding loads and loads of elements to it to make it even better and more resilient, especially in these difficult times. And you've done it. So tell us first, when did you start your cottages business? How did you start? And how many cottages do you have?
Right. So I bought my first cottage in 2009. And that was actually when I met David, because bizarrely, he lived next door. We didn't really know each other very well then, so we've come together since. So I bought that one in Dunster in 2009, which is a medieval cottage. So it's very old. It was built in 1366.
Wow.
I know. Crazy, isn't
That
it?
is old.
It's ancient.
And was it in poor condition?
Not at all. So it'd been really well looked after. It's a
Wow.
big house, mainly constructed of wood but stone as well, and it had sort of survived the ages and some sort of interesting building work and things. But no, you would go in and it's very well maintained. All our cottages are. You know, my rule is prevention rather than cure. I don't wait for a problem. If we see something, however minor, we fix it. But this is a completely different kettle of fish. You know, all the properties are grade 2 listed, so they're all very old.
But 750 years. Am I right? Have I
Yes.
done the sums?
Yes, you have.
That's an immensely old
Yes,
building.
It's one of the oldest buildings, residential buildings in Dunster.
Wow.
Yeah. So
and a hugely popular destination for visitors.
yes. So what happened was I intended to sort of be in that house sort of half the year, and I would work in London the other half where I was working at the time. And actually, once I started renting it out, it was so popular, I thought to myself, there might be a business here. Because what that house gave people was sort of a step back into history with a washing machine, a dishwasher, comfy beds, you know, top of the range mattresses, warmth,
Everything
all
that
of
people
the things
expect.
you need.
Yes.
Whilst there's crack beams, a 4-poster bed, you know, a wooden screen that's Tudor, all these lovely historical features, whilst, you've got all the mod cons you want. And then in 2012, I bought Pilgrim Corner, which is a thatched cottage at the bottom of the church steps, which is a local beauty spot in Minehead.
Now, that's a risk in a way, buying a thatched property.
Yes, and bear in mind, I'm a girl from the southeast, from South London. You know, a thatched property was really out of my comfort zone, so I did quite a bit of research on it. But again, it proved incredibly popular. That one's slightly bigger. It sleeps 8. It's got a massive country garden, and it had a hot tub. And that makes all the difference, because when people start thinking about luxury holidays, a hot tub is part of that equation. So I learnt about hot tubs, I learnt about thatched cottages, and then in 2015 I bought the house next door, which was quite run down, another thatch, and it had been a sweet shop.
Oh, really?
So it's called the Old Sweet Shop now.
Oh.
It's absolutely beautiful, been refurbished, so with guest needs in mind. Because by then I'd done 2 for 6 or 7 years. I had a good idea of what people want, what they need. And there was a derelict barn. Basically, it was just brick walls.
Sorry, listeners, it's the alarm next door. We'll just disregard it. That's it. Gone.
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 So I did a barn conversion at the same time. So there
So
are
as if
four
you
now.
didn't have enough to do.
I know. Well, what happened was I started doing the sweet shop, and as it was coming together and starting to look amazing, I realised who on earth is going to come and stay in a beautiful luxury thatched cottage with a lovely garden with a derelict barn in the grounds? Nobody. And it wouldn't have been safe. So I had to go back to the bank and say, I need to rethink this. So I've got a fantastic bank manager called Nigel.
Hello, Nigel. We love you.
I hope he's listening. I do get him to listen.
Yes, we need you more.
And I hope Nat West are listening, because I think his job comes up for review about once every 2 years. You know, so I always say how great he's been. And I went to him and said, look, I need to do this at the same time. I've got all the builders on site, but no one is going to want to stay in a beautiful cottage next door to a dangerous building site.
Sure.
So that was done at the same time, all with planning permission. They're all, as I said, they're all old. They're all listed.
So those three are very close to
They're
each
next
other.
door.
And then there's Dunster.
Yes.
So you've got those two sort of sites, so to speak, but 4 houses
Yes.
to service,
Yeah.
stock, service, maintain,
Yeah.
as well as the letting, the hospitality, the welcome and all of that, because I know you've got visitors arriving this afternoon.
Yes, 2 sets of visitors.
Two sets of
today.
visitors. So, you know, it's a quiet day.
It is quite a lively business for activity. There is always something going on, and there's a lot of mundane things you have to do in these businesses.
Sure.
And that's partly what that award was about. You know, there was during COVID, which David will talk about, we had to do so much more to be COVID secure, COVID safe, a lot of training, a lot of thinking, re-engineering things. But there is a lot of mundane things, you know, making sure we've got fresh milk in the cottages, making sure there's a nice cake on the welcome tray. Has somebody weeded the cobbles at the front? You know, have we tested all the smoke alarms? There's a lot of paperwork. A lot of this we do ourselves, we put in place ourselves.
But you're also presumably employing local people
Yes.
to clean and do the handovers and
Yes.
garden and
We
so
think
on.
we employ, certainly on a regular basis, 14 local people.
Oh,
so that's
that's great.
14 jobs.
Yeah.
And they're all very experienced. So I work really hard to find a housekeeping team that, you know, people say anyone can clean. It's not true.
No.
There is an awful lot that goes into cleaning. You really need to know the house, particularly older houses, where the cobwebs are, where you get the dust, where
Sure.
you might get damp.
And you need to look up
You
into
do
the corners and
always look up.
windows.
Yes. And, you know, even hoovering that little bit that you get in the double glazing. Do you know the
Yes,
piece
yes.
all
Yeah.
these things. I have a thing about when I try to think about the customer journey. So
Sure.
you've arrived from, let's say you've driven from where Anton and I first met, from Beckenham in South London. It's a 5-hour stunt in a car. You know, it's a long way. You get there, you're exhausted, you've got kids shouting at you, you've got a dog that needs walking and to be running around, you've got all your luggage. So we want them to arrive at the door, open the door and go, oh, wow. And that lovely smell. We always have classical music playing. We have a cake on the welcome tray. Everything's there so they can make a hot
You
drink.
don't want to see
cold water.
dead flies in
No,
the windows
that's right.
exactly,
or an
because-
unmade fire in
Yes,
the fireplace.
the minute you see dirt, the minute you see something that's not right, you start looking for it everywhere
Sure.
else. And I just think you have to treat people in the way you want to be treated, and then they respect the properties.
What a good attitude.
It does work,
Good
and
attitude.
so many people come back. I mean, we have so many regular visitors, and that's happened in, you know, a relatively short space
10
of
years.
time.
Yeah,
And bear
less.
in mind, I had one for about 5 years.
Yeah.
And I've been able to move people from that cottage to say, as their families have grown, well, now your kids are older. Why don't you try and put them in
'Cause
one
it's
of the
Sleep
mine
6 or
heads?
whatever,
Exactly.
yes.
And with so it's a lovely business to work in. There is a lot to think about, but people come in a good mood. They come because they're on holiday.
Sure.
And David and I had a lovely experience after the first lockdown on the day when we were allowed to welcome guests for the first time in 2020, which was the 4th of July.
Yes.
We were standing in Minehead outside the 3 cottages, and what we'd done was we had one person outside each so we could do a socially distanced welcome. And we were standing at the top of Vicarage Road waiting for the guests, and we heard the revving of engines coming up the street. And we were so excited. And you could hear it's like a convoy. They were three different guests. They didn't know each other, but they were one after the other after the other. They arrived, they parked their cars outside. There was slamming of doors, opening of doors, and then people going, like this.
We're actually out of the house.
And you could hear kids saying, "Oh, Daddy, come and look. Can I have this room? Oh, look at the garden."
Yes.
And we just went, "Our work is done." And it was after months of hard work, really months of hard work. And that's what makes it worthwhile.
Well, David, let's ask you about that time because, you know, we all know that the hospitality industry of most of the country and the world during the last 2 years has been hammered to bits, and it's been start, stop all the way through. So how did that make the job more difficult for you, and what Lucy's hinted at it, but how did you build in extra, you know, care and resilience to the business?
It was... Everything happened overnight. So I'm sure everyone listening to this will remember that day when Boris stood there at the podium and said, "You must stay at home."
23rd of March.
23rd of March. And, you know, to this day, my hairs still stand on end when I hear those words, because all of us were told to close our front doors and stay behind them for an indefinite period. And I think that as a business, that's where we were. We were hearing that at the same time as everyone else heard to stay at home. So that means we had to close our doors straight away.
Sure.
There simply wasn't going to be guests.
And did everyone who had booked for the coming seasons, were they online and on the blower, you know, saying, "Oh, what can we do? We're supposed to be coming in June and this," and you had to push it on? I mean, the bookings, logistics-wise, must have been a complete nightmare.
Indeed. And we, Lucy and I, spoke the day that we knew that Boris was going to make that announcement. I was fortunate to be getting quite a lot of intelligence coming in from European countries that were going into lockdown before we did. And we were having late-night conversations saying, "Lucy, I think we're going to get a lockdown in the next few days. We need to be planning what our action is." And we agreed that on the day that Boris made the announcement, that Lucy would start outbound calling, would be calling our guests rather than waiting
So
for them to
preempting the
contact
problem.
us. Yeah, and we had a plan.
Yeah,
you know, we were standing in our respective gardens, 250 miles away from one another, on the phone saying, "Right, this is the plan. Lucy, contact our regular guests." And of course, because we have guests who are booking via booking agencies, such as cottages.com as well, we were reliant on them also having a policy and a process. But what we actually found is that we were miles ahead of them and a lot of other competitors as well, and we were on the phones on the day of the announcement, postponing and encouraging guests to postpone their stay rather than to cancel, because
And
they wanted to
trying
cancel.
to think of booking in the future without knowing what on earth the future was going to look like,
Absolutely.
which is the problem for over the last 2 years, because it was open, then we shut, then it... I mean, how many lockdowns? One loses idea of how many lockdowns there have been. So that
we were
must have
very
been...
positive, though. Our whole raison d'etre was, look, if you wish to cancel, a refund's available now, or we'll postpone until a later date at the same price, at the same rate that we'd previously had. So that was very good. But you know, one of the things that we found is that many of our guests were completely understanding.
Yes.
We were all, you know, this sounds a bit hackneyed now, doesn't it? But we were all in it together in that first lockdown.
They understood.
They did. They absolutely did.
And also, if you were having regulars coming back, they would want to come back in some time.
Yes.
And so they would want you to hold on to that booking and push it forward. And I think we've all experienced that, where we've gone somewhere and it's been 2 years after we booked the thing.
Exactly.
So, but it's the way that you react to that dislocation that is the key, which has obviously made you the winner of the Resilience Award, which must have been so thrilling.
It was amazing, partly because we are tiny. There are 4 holiday cottages. You know, we're a really small team.
Yes, you're not a mega thing.
And we were up against businesses like Stonehenge, you know, English heritage-owned, National Trust-owned, great big hotels in Bath, in Bristol, the Minack Theatre in Cornwall. You know, these are really huge businesses that are famous worldwide, not just even in the UK. So for us to be recognised alongside them was really incredible. I mean, it was amazing. And we went out as a team. So 10 of us went to the awards dinner.
How exciting.
In Exeter. And that was really good because it was really the first proper thing we've done since the start of the lockdowns. So the award was really about how we responded to the lockdowns, and this meant that we could all go out and celebrate and dress up. So, you know, there weren't any marigold gloves and muddy wellies. It was, you know, black ties and dinner dresses.
And having
you
a
know,
lovely posh evening.
It was, yeah, wonderful just to be able to do it and say, we earned this. We've all won this award. Because we did, you know, everybody had to come together. And it is amazing when you put human beings like in these situations, how they come out. I mean, okay,
Sure.
you might have a few days where you go, I feel really depressed, I'm really down, this is going to beat us, we're going out of business. David and I never did that. We said, this will end at some point. It has to come to an end. We need to be ready. We need to communicate with our regular guests, which we did a lot. We sent them a lot of newsletters. I was messaging people all the time, certainly at the beginning. And we said, like David said, we said straight away, we will give you your money back. If you book direct with us, we will give you your money back. The issue I had was I was getting calls from people who'd booked through a third party who were being told they couldn't have their money back.
Oh, naughty.
And yeah, so there was a bit of that, and the government got involved at one stage. You probably don't remember because it's quite a nitty gritty thing. But I felt, I know we're small, but for me to pay, one day I paid out over £20,000 in refunds. That's a lot of money for a really small business.
Sure.
That's where you need your understanding bank manager and your bounce back loans and your grants and things. But all of that, we thought we're just going to invest in the business. So we're going to be shut over the summer. Let's get some videos shot of the summer, which we could never do normally.
And it was a beautiful summer. The spring and summer
Absolutely
was lovely.
gorgeous, wasn't it?
So you couldn't not get fabulous images and so on.
Exactly. And we're still using those. And, you know, we
Yes.
never have a Friday in the summer where we could get a videographer in and film make a film. We just don't have time. So we're all running around like crazy, cleaning cottages and mowing lawns and, you know, getting
And putting
everything
the cake
ready.
out.
Putting the cake out. And we write cards, bottles of fizz, all sorts of things. So I think it has been a challenging time, but you do look back on these and think, you forget so quickly as well, don't you?
Don't you?
How tough it was.
I agree. And I mean, running the business and managing the business so well, which has got you the award, but it's also taught you a great deal about, I think, yourselves and
Yes.
the way that, you know, you and your staff are responding, and probably made you a good deal stronger.
Oh, absolutely, it has. I mean, even the process of entering the award, where you have to have quite a lot of information and statistics. There were a few things where we thought, actually, we need more statistics on this regularly, weren't there? And so we've changed some of the processes. I mean, Anton and I, when we were working together, we were doing marketing and PR. So that's an area where I've always been really quite hot. But David does the compliance. He does the risk assessments. And so we were picking
He's a good
things
person
up
to
all
know.
the time.
Yeah, risk assessment suddenly started to become sexy.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
because risk
makes
is often
sense.
seen
Well,
as boring.
we tell him that.
Well, I have to. I keep on having to tell
Sit in
myself
a
that
stage
every
whisper.
morning. But it was interesting because we were learning from lots of different sources. Because we have to remember that the government was very busy supporting the population, 65 million others. We were having to find information from lots of different sources, and we were looking at so much detail. It was about how one cleans the cutlery, what
Yes,
temperature you wash the
absolutely.
towels.
Yeah.
Which chemicals to
which
buy.
chemicals?
Yeah.
There
I mean,
were
all
so
of this
many
one doesn't
details.
think of at
No.
all.
No, and I think what it does do is it allows you to run a better business because it allows you to see, well, what were we missing before? Well, fortunately, we identified very few things that we were actually missing, but what it does do is it allows you to have checklists and it allows you to embed that sort of risk management into the business that we didn't have before.
Yeah.
So therefore, linking back to what Lucy said about the customer journey and the customer experience, when someone comes into the property now, they have the same hygienic, cleanly experience as they had even in the height of the the COVID pandemic. And that's something that we'll continue ad infinitum. We've not changed any of our processes.
So you've learned that amazingly, tough bunch of information because of the pandemic, and you'll continue it.
Yes.
And hence the award.
I think so.
It's lovely. Yeah. And And what's the nicest thing? Is the nicest thing about the people arriving and going, "Oh, mummy, look at this! I want this!" Is that the sort of best moment?
For me, that is, and
Yeah.
reading the feedback at the end.
Yes.
Things like, you know, we have people come and get ready for weddings. We had a proposal once in Pilgrim Corner Garden. Even recently, and it sounds like a sad thing, but there was a lovely couple that came and their dog had died in our garden. He had cancer. He was elderly, so they were taking him on lots of holidays because he loved the sea and the sand, and they took him to Minehead Beach the day before and he couldn't dig, and they knew, okay, you know, Alfie is on his way, you know, over the rainbow, they call it. And he died on a morning in the garden in Pilgrim Corner, surrounded by beautiful plants and singing birds. And they were absolutely sanguine about it. They said it was a lovely moment. They were all together. Had they been at home and at work and all, it would have been a very different experience and quite stressful. And we planted a rose called Smiling Eyes. We've got a plaque for him. We sent them photographs of that, and they're going to come and visit it. And it's things like that and I know that sounds a sad thing, but there are many, many happy moments, you know, like the proposals, like people writing, we've made amazing memories with our family. And a lot of people came together after COVID for the first time in our cottages. And that was lovely. You know, you actually heard them saying hello to each other in person for the first time because they'd only really been speaking. So I feel like it is a service industry. There's no, you know, and there's a lot of serving. But it's an absolutely lovely thing to do. And when I would say to our housekeepers, the person coming today has been isolating for 2 years. He's recovering from cancer. We need to do an extra deep clean, or we need to fog in certain bedrooms. They would take that so seriously. And I was always so impressed with that, you know, we're all part of this. Like Dave said, we did all feel we were in this together and we all had our part to play. And that, for me, that's the lovely thing. It is the memories, the feedback, the happy guests, and enabling that.
Well, you're running a fantastic business. Well done.
Thank
well
you.
done. Congratulations
Thank
on the
you.
award. It would be lovely to see your cottages in the flesh.
Yes,
I must
you'll
come
have
and
to
see you
come.
one
You will.
day.
You'll have to come
Should
down.
come and do a recording in one of the
Yes,
cottages.
do.
but-
Marvellous idea.
Yeah, that would be lovely. But thank you so much. Have a good season.
Thank
It's
you.
obviously already happening, and you're busy today. But thank you so much for coming down
Thank you
to
for
10 Radio to
asking
speak
us.
to us. It's been great to meet you. And you've chosen a great bit of music, Lucy.
Thank you.
What are we going to hear?
I've chosen Here Comes the Sun by the Beatles. My favourite
Perfect,
band.
perfect. And let's hope it is.
Yes, I
Thank
hope so.
you.
Well, wasn't that lovely?
Oh, actually, it was lovely. What a lovely conversation we had.
Yeah, indeed. And what a lovely pair.
Yes, I know, delightful. And as we said, we'll have them back. So I know Pauline is quite keen to come and see the cottages, bless her. So maybe we'll do it an OB, as we like to say in the radio profession. We'll do an OB at the cottages. Yeah, that would be really nice, wouldn't it? Perhaps in the summer.
Yeah.
Although it's always busy in the summer, but
Yeah.
maybe we'll do that.
We'll have to squeeze them in. I'm
Yeah.
sure we could. It would be a lovely afternoon. Okay. Well, I hope you enjoyed that little delve into the professional radio over at 10 Radio. If you wanted to have a listen to 10 Radio, they're at www.10radio.org. They're also available on Facebook as well. And 10 Radio, based down, as Lucy said, in with Elliscombe, which is in the south part of our region, effectively. But it's a lovely part of the world. Lots of places to go and see and do, and lots of coffee.
Two
and
very
buns
nice antique shops there.
Yeah, indeed.
Huge barn, or sort of warehouse full of antiques
It
round
used
the
to
back.
be the brewery, the old brewery,
Yeah,
hadn't it?
the old brewery, and then there's the courthouse. If that's still open, last time we went, it wasn't. And some nice eateries as well, and a couple of gifty shops. So it's worth a trip.
Yeah, it certainly is. And as Lucy mentioned in the first part of this, we'll be off to Bampton soon. You can listen to the Dulverton podcast as well, which is all in the same vicinity. So lots to do in the south part of Exmoor and Devon over the next few weeks. So thanks, Lucy.
Smashing. Thank you very much, David.
Okay, see you soon.
Bye.